talk. We're going to recap the championship week scores. We're going to look at the new rankings, the new college football rankings, and the Heisman finalists came out today. We're just going to touch on that, and we're going to talk about just take a look at the rankings in terms of who's got left out and are the rankings correct. Can you pull up the college football scores?
I can.
Or I can actually do it here from championship week. All right, Kevin, let's jump right into Alabama and Georgia, the SEC championship game. All right. It was a phenomenal game. Everything that you could possibly want. I was shocked because I wouldn't call it shock, but I expected Alabama to roll, but Georgia was game. What did you see? What do you think about that contest?
Yeah, Joey, Georgia definitely came to play. When you look at Georgia and you look at their athletes from A to Z across the board, there's not much separation between them and Alabama. Georgia's had a top 5 class the past 2 years since Kirby Smart has been there. So the athletes are definitely there. And Kirby Smart, working with Nick Saban for 12 years, he knows Saban's process, and he's instilled that down in Georgia, and you can see it on the field. So it was a really tough game for Alabama. Georgia came out to play. Bama came out, played hard. I think it wasn't one of the best games for Tua. You know, he suffered from a couple different injuries in that game. One injury, he got his left ankle injured, got back up, came back in, got his right ankle injured, and from that injury, he was not able to return. He will be having surgery, if he hasn't already, today or tomorrow, and they're expecting that he should be back for the playoff game down here in Miami. But that game had everything: good defense, good offense, and what I really enjoyed the most was watching Jalen Hurts have his opportunity to come into the game, just like he was pulled out of the game last year against Georgia, and Tua came in and won it.
Yeah.
This time he was inserted into the game, and he won it and carried his team across the finish line.
Did you see the game, Joe?
I did see the major parts of it.
Okay. I was thrilled watching this game. I was extremely happy for Jalen Hurts. My first reactions as Tagovailoa struggled was that Georgia they were just on it. One, and number two, when you see an athlete that's special on a particular level, on a development level, not the top level, when an athlete is that special where they just thoroughly dominate that level like he has, rarely does he run into viable competition. All right? And in the case of a quarterback, that viable competition is going to come on the other side of the field from the defense, not necessarily from a team, but from a defense. Does that defense have the special type of athletes
to take
that
away
are going to force you to up your game to the next level? Because he's just cruising. But when after the first interception, he got juked into the interception because the Georgia defensive back faked like he was going one way and came back to the spot. Like they knew something. Special athletes, special coaching, just like you said. Georgia's recruiting is right there. So we're probably talking about a defensive backfield with 4 or 5 NFL players right now in Georgia, and they showed that.
Yep, Joey, I would use this as an example. Let's use this as an example. You and I, it's almost like if you and I grew up together and we played basketball for 12 years from the time we were 5, right, all the way to the time where we were 17, and we played on the same teams consistently. You know, I know your moves. I know your go-to move. I know what you like to do on defense. This is sort of what this was like for Kirby Smart, who's coached with Saban that long. He knows Saban's tendencies. He knows what Saban wants to do, what he wants to try to accomplish with his game plan. He knows that Saban would much rather run than pass. He knows where Saban would like to pass, whether it's on the outside, in the boundary area, in opposed to throwing over the middle. He knows all of these tendencies about Saban. So it's like having that inside advantage. And then when you put the athletes on top of that, you know, it's tough playing against a former coach or a former assistant.
Right. Okay. Texas and Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game. I saw glimpses, didn't get to watch the whole game, but obviously Oklahoma performed well. Texas fought a little bit, but Oklahoma pulled that out. What was the score of that, Joe?
39-27.
39-27, Oklahoma with the win. So how is Oklahoma feeling after this? They have now taken the 4th spot in the college football playoff poll, which is a solid, solidified. It's the final poll, so they are in the playoff. What are their prospects? How did you enjoy this game? What were your reactions to this game?
So this game went almost exactly how I predicted it to go. It was going to be Oklahoma eventually outscoring Texas to get this win. Texas came out, drove down the field, put up an early touchdown, but you could feel the energy with this game, and you just knew that Oklahoma would outscore them and come back. That offense is very dynamic. I watched Kyler Murray, and just being able to defend him as a passer is tough enough, you know. And then once you get into a groove with coverages, as you mix the coverages up to try to confuse them, and then he begins to scramble to the right or the left, it's not like your typical quarterback running. Kyler Murray is an elite runner.
He's not like a typical running back running.
Exactly. He's like a running back or a receiver, a dangerous receiver with the ball running. So now you have to defend that. And he uses his legs to extend plays.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is one of the most scary offenses that are out there this year. I will be honest on that. And I'm really excited to see this matchup between Oklahoma and Alabama. I'll actually be at a dinner on Wednesday down here, Orange Bowl dinner, where Lincoln Riley and Nick Saban will be at. So it'll be interesting to hear what the coaches have to say in this preliminary dinner for the Orange Bowl 3 weeks before the actual contest.
All right, cool. Let's come back on next week and fill us in on that for sure.
Absolutely.
So, just a quick sidebar. Have you seen Kyler Murray, Joe?
I've seen clips.
After this game, I started to think that he might have made a mistake taking that baseball contract.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think he could do it in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And I think he could do it at a high level in the NFL. I mean, granted, he's 5'9", 5'10". You know what I mean? 185, 190 pounds.
How tall is Russell?
5'10", 5'11".
Exactly.
But Russell's
He's
does not. It's
stronger.
not the same kind of build.
Yeah.
Right. So
Russell's all legs.
Russell's a legit running back build.
Right.
Kyler Murray is a slot receiver build. Is that fair, Kev?
Is that like a Charlie Ward kind of build?
Yeah.
No, he's not as big as Charlie Ward.
Okay.
He's not as big as Charlie Ward. but it's hard to touch him. And if he can throw over and through the lines now, granted the NFL players are going to be a little bit bigger, a little bit faster, but he's so good throwing the ball. He's extremely accurate. He throws from the pocket, and he looks to throw the ball before running. Like Kevin said, he'll extend plays instead of taking yards all the time. So, I mean, the $5 million signing bonus from the Oakland A's, he might never actually make the major leagues. Okay, so at this point, his chances of being, say, a Hall of Fame baseball player are pretty slim to none.
Okay.
And that's just, 99 out of 100 players drafted. That would be the fair way to look at them. So then the question becomes, okay, he's not a Hall of Famer. Is he a major leaguer? Right? And the odds for that are like 50-50 for anybody. For anybody, 50-50. So you take the $5 million now and a 50-50 chance that you make the majors, or you're gonna go into an NFL draft and he would be picked in the first round. Kev, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I personally think that he has all the good to play in the NFL. It really comes down to where his heart is. After watching him play football, especially this year, I can't see him having more passion for baseball. I just can't see it. And I don't know if he took that contract sort of as backup for, if he wasn't able to get drafted. But
officially, per the Oakland A's and per him, he signed the contract, took the signing bonus, and they allowed him, because he would have been done. They would not have let him come back to school.
Okay.
And they allowed him to come back for this football season. So he's all in. He's all in. So they did him a favor letting him come back and play.
Can he give that bonus back?
Nah.
I wouldn't, but I'm just saying.
No.
Hypothetical.
Well, that's the way I was thinking. Like, I would think he can get out of this contract if he really wanted to.
He took the money.
He can say, I'll pay it back to you in 5 years.
I guess technically.
But look, think about it like this. If he decides he doesn't want to play baseball, and he decides he wants to play football, and he's going to definitely get a signing bonus, and he's going to get money from the football side, where they will pay that back. That money just exchanges hands. I mean, you can always work something out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's going to come out of his own personal pocket. I mean, They will, these NFL teams looking at him will do whatever it takes to get him free of that.
Truth be told, if he does become a major league player, the money that he'll make in the majors is going to probably, as a quarterback, he'll get $25 million a year in the NFL. But for how long? As a Major League Baseball, he's going to average 15 or 20 million for 15 years.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Maybe. So, yeah. The Big Ten game, as expected, Kevin?
As expected, I had to keep myself awake. I found myself nodding to sleep in both
no surprise
that game and the ACC game with Clemson and Pittsburgh. I mean, neither one of those two teams should have been in the championship game, Pittsburgh or Northwestern. It was really just a formality to watch those games. You really didn't feel at any point in time that there could have been a true contest there.
Okay, in the Pac-12, same thing, huh?
Pac-12 game was actually pretty interesting. With Utah and Washington, a whole lot of defense. There was only one off. Actually, there was only one touchdown scored in that entire game, and it wasn't even scored offensively by either team. It was scored from a interception return from Washington. It was another doozy, but it was at least competitive and went down to the last series.
Okay. So the current. Hold up, somebody's calling me. It's my sister-in-law.
Oh, she can wait. That's no big deal. Just don't let her see this live. She'd be like, he just sent me the voicemail.
I like to answer her calls because she's from South Africa, so it's the best accent. The best accents.
Yeah, so that means it'll be a long time. Take like 5 minutes to get off the phone with her, probably.
No. Okay. The current college football rankings, or the final rankings that we're putting up right now. Number 1, Alabama. Number 2, Clemson. Number 3, Notre Dame. Number 4, Oklahoma. So those are the 4 teams that are in the playoffs. Obviously, 4 playing 1, 2 playing 3, and then the 2 winners meet. The teams that missed, Georgia. And, they have a pretty good argument for being in, but I would consider their game in the SEC championship game an elimination game, a playoff game. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Although if Alabama won, they would still be in that top 4. Ohio State was a long shot. They did what they had to do, taking care of Michigan, put themselves in position, won in their championship game, but they really had no chance to jump unless Pitt beat Clemson, and then that was still going to be iffy. Rounding it out, the only team that has a gripe is UCF, the defending national champions. Kev, what's it going to take to get UCF into the college football playoffs? No, let me ask you this.
Well,
if they go undefeated next year, just based on conference schedule, right? We're not going to get into the non-conference portion of the schedule or who they're putting on their schedule or whatever. They go undefeated next year. Are they going to? Is the same thing going to happen, or do they have to start out being highly ranked for them to make it to the playoffs?
Well, I think that helps, and I think that there's a long-term strategy there. UCF, the first year or the last year of Scott's year, was unranked in the top 25. At the end of the season, they made their way up to about 15, somewhere around there, and that's where they ended up in the season, made a New Year's Six Bowl. This year, they came in ranked around 15, so they didn't really move far. But what that did was allow them to climb all the way up to number 8.
But that's not
so
climbing. Okay, so let me stop you right there. That is not climbing up. That's bias. Because for you to come in, start the season at 15, never lose, and finish at 8, when there's 2 lost teams ahead of you?
Well, this is the thing. You really do have to look at
strength of schedule,
who the teams are playing, and strength of schedule. But I'm with you on UCF having a gripe, because I did some research myself on Sunday, right before the playoff rankings, and realized that UCF's strength of schedule was only 12 slots behind Clemson, and it was only 15 slots behind Notre Dame.
Okay, so before you go on, for the people, when you give a number like that, we have to put that number into context. All right? How many teams are in what is it? FBS, right? The bowl subdivision. How many teams out of? So they're ranked 15 out of how many?
No. They're not ranked 15.
Well, I'm talking
What
about
I'm
strength of
saying is,
schedule.
you said, okay, so there are about 130 teams in FBS.
Right, and their strength of schedule is where?
Their strength of schedule was at 79,
Oh,
I
yeah, that's
believe it
pretty
was.
bad. That's not really good.
Right.
It's not as good as I thought it was going
But
to be.
when you look at it, Notre Dame was like 66,
Okay,
and
that's context.
and Clemson was 61.
Okay.
So when you look at it like that, they were only 12 slots behind them. And the other thing is, UCF blew out the other ACC conference title opponent, which was Pittsburgh,
Right.
by 20-some points.
Right.
And they're in the ACC conference. That's who Clemson beat in the ACC championship game.
Mm-hmm.
They also beat,
Can you pull up UCF?
at the time, a ranked Cincinnati who was 9-1, and they blew them out.
Okay.
And then they beat Memphis, who was ranked, twice. So they to me have the biggest gripe, because I believe the committee is too forgiving with losses. This is an undefeated team, just like Clemson and Notre Dame. And there's no reason why there should be teams with 2 losses or even one bad loss to unranked teams ranked ahead of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, I feel UCF has got the shaft, but they will have an opportunity to show the nation if they are for real or not in their bowl game.
Versus who? Because they're not playing in the top 4, so they're going to crush whoever they play.
No, that's not true. They actually
Oh, they play
are in
Georgia?
a New Year's Six game. They made a New Year's Six game. They're playing
LSU, right?
against the
LSU?
LSU Tigers.
LSU can't score.
Yeah, but you can see what they do against that defense, though.
That's true, but and they're on their backup quarterback too. Okay, that we're looking forward to that. That's going to be the second national championship game, because if UCF wins, I'm going to consider them to be co-national champion at the very least. They need to sue. They need to call a lawyer and sue, because that's not right. Because the amount of money that they're losing over this debacle is senseless. They're losing millions of dollars for this.
In a way, that's a little bit of a setup, because LSU's defense is nasty. Right? So if you play them, like, yeah.
Right, they're going to be like, oh, see?
But
You won, but you only beat them by 3.
But if they can put a
Yeah.
whooping on that defense, then you definitely have another conversation to
Right.
be had.
Yeah. They should definitely sue.
Yeah, this is definitely going to define them, because LSU is going to come into this game hungry. If I know Ogeron, they're already upset because of that loss that they took at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And they still have a good running game. LSU can move the ball. They don't have a dynamic offense, but they have an efficient offense, and an offense efficient enough to beat Georgia. So, if you can beat Georgia, your offense is not that bad. And so I think LSU is going to come in, and they're not going to take them lightly like Auburn did last year. And even though they may be coming in disappointed because they aren't in the game that they're in, they're going to make an example. They're going to try to make an example out of UCF because they're undefeated and because they're tired of the noise. And if UCF can come out and win that game, then they've really got case
Right.
going forward.
Right.
But what UCF really needs to do, honestly, all of that extra energy, is they need to find their way into one of these Power 5 conferences, and they need to focus on scheduling
That's not fair.
some big name schools.
But that's not fair. What needs to happen is a conference champion needs to be recognized as a champion, and you can't squeeze everybody into the Power 5, and that's what's wrong with college football. If you want to do that, then create a completely different division, which they have, call it the Power Five, and then let everybody else play for their own championship. Because the idea that there's 9 or 10 conferences and only 5 of them are even considered for the playoffs, and of the 5, one of them is like a stepchild because they'll try everything they can do to keep the Big 12 out, including any chance they get to put 2 SEC teams in there. It's not fair. So if it's going to be just the Power 5, let it just be the Power 5. Let everybody else go play somewhere else. But they want their cake and they want to eat it too, and not be fair to these teams, these kids that are out here putting in years of work. Now they're seniors. This is their best team. They work so hard. They're undefeated, and you be like, nah, you don't matter. That's what college football is today.
Well, I mean, I can understand, definitely can understand
Kev,
your point
hold
of
on
view,
one
and
second,
I'm sure
Kev.
the
Hold on one,
UCF fans are frustrated.
Kev, I'm going to let you finish that point, but I need to introduce on standby right now. We got Tim, our West Coast correspondent, on the line. Tim, what's happening? Can you hear us? Tim, you there?
Tim's out there. We'll find him.
Keep on working on Tim. All right, Kev, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
No, I was just saying that I understand the frustration that you have with UCF and the fan base has. But, you know, there's nothing stopping UCF from scheduling, you know, at least one big name quality opponent.
Okay, so tell me this.
Had that.
You're in Florida. That's your home
Right.
state. Where is Miami, Florida State, University of Florida? What is their policy, or what are they putting out there in terms of why they're not scheduling UCF?
Well, they have in the past, UCF and USF,
But not in the last 2 seasons.
The athletic. I was going to say that athletic director is the one that's responsible for that, for scheduling, getting the schedule together, finding teams that will do the home and homes, or even the neutral site game. If they had that this year, if they had one major big name game this year, I don't care who it was. If it was Michigan,
What
if
about
it was
Florida
South
State?
Carolina, Florida State, even Florida State.
Okay.
You know, they want to see big names. People don't recognize, the college football fan base don't really recognize some of the teams that play in that conference.
Definitely.
And so it makes them look like they didn't play anybody.
Right.
But if you had one, you know, Tennessee, one South Carolina, one USC, you know, just anybody. It doesn't even have to be a top 10. Somebody that's in that top 25 that's solid, that they can lay their hat on as a quality opponent. Pittsburgh doesn't do it
Right.
for everyone, despite the fact that they were in the ACC championship.
Right.
I mean, I'm with you. I want to see the small guy get an opportunity, and I think they will by getting this New Year's Six Bowl. And there's plenty of money that comes in this New Year's Six Bowl. They're playing. They're playing.
Yeah, but it's not extra game
You know,
money.
out in.
It's not extra game
Yeah, they're
against
playing
a big
out
game, against a big name team money.
Yeah.
All right. Hold on one second, Kev. On the line from the West Coast, California, LA, Tim Eubanks, a.k.a. Tim.
The West
Tim,
Coast is the best coast.
Council West Coast correspondent. What's popping, Tim?
Hey, you know, can't
Tim.
call it. Trying to get in,
Tim,
see what's good with my boys.
I would love to introduce you to our college football man, Kevin Ballard. He's out of Fort Lauderdale. Kev, say what's up to
listening.
Tim. Say what's up to Kev.
Kev, what's going on, man?
How's it going, Tim?
You know, out here on the best coast, you know, enjoying 70-degree weather. They tell me it's winter.
Show off.
I'm not sure.
I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you
Yeah,
down
both
here.
of you guys.
That's
In
enough.
the
That's
South.
enough of that. That's
Yeah.
enough.
So let's get Kev wrapped up here. Kev,
Yeah.
who are the Heisman Trophy finalists?
Right now, I think it's a.
Well, no, it's been announced.
tight race.
It's official. Let's get the official word.
I think it's tight race right now between Tagovailoa and Murray, but I think that Tagovailoa is going to win it because of his body of work. Didn't have the best game on Saturday. Got knocked out of the game, couldn't finish, but I think his body of work will win him the Heisman.
Yo, who's beating their kid?
Oh, that's little man running around, but I have to kick him out the room. Like, you got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
We won't say nothing if you don't say nothing. You got to do what you got to do. We all took a beating or two.
Right. So, do you see the finalists?
I do.
Okay. Here are the 2018 college football Heisman Trophy finalists.
So you've got Dwayne Haskins at Ohio State University, Kyler Murray, University of Oklahoma, and Tua Tagovailoa.
What's Haskins' class? Do we know?
I'm sure Kev knows.
Kev, Dwayne Haskins. Is it Dwayne Haskins?
Dwayne Haskins.
Yep. Way back.
All right. Out of the three, who are you going with? I know you're on the side of Tua, but officially those are the three finalists, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. This is directly from the Heisman Trophy as posted on their Twitter page.
Nice. That's using your resources.
That's right, because we have the best team in the game over here. Gyroscope.
All right, Kev, what's your call on this Heisman?
I'm going with Tua Tagovailoa.
Okay. Even with, now you did explain last week that his lack of eye-popping, well, he has eye-popping numbers, but let's say cumulative season stats is because he rarely plays in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
And even with that being the case, you still want to go that route.
I do.
Okay. Tim, are you up on college football enough to tell me who's going to win the Heisman out of those three?
I think it's Tua.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to be close.
Really?
And then they got the third guy from Ohio State. And,
He's got no chance.
I mean, they can't even make the playoffs, so he's not going anywhere.
Right.
He should just be happy to be there.
He's just happy to be here.
Take some pictures.
That's why I was asking what's his class.
Yeah, you
They
get a
probably
free trip
said
to New York. Yeah.
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 But I think it's Murray. And the reason I think it's Murray is because of that difference in his numbers are more representative of a Heisman, cumulatively speaking, due to the fact that he's always in a Big 12 shootout. Mm-hmm. So he's got to put up 50 every week, right? And he's in the game into the fourth quarter because, I mean, he's probably 6 games Oklahoma gave up 30-plus points.
Do you think Tua being out the next 2 games will impact the final decision?
Supposedly not, because the consideration is supposed to be stopping now.
Okay.
If I'm wrong, correct me on that, Kevin. Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense.
Right. And we don't even know if Tua's playing again this year.
Well, he's out 2 games. They said it's two games
Nick
we're looking at.
Saban said that. You can't believe a word out of that dude's
Well,
mouth.
he's the coach, man.
Exactly.
He's so happy for Jalen to do well, though. He's trying to support his other guy. So
Yes. Hey, you know what? That's such a good story, too, because of the way he lost his job. And, I was talking about Saban wouldn't let him go and he should have transferred.
he got his job back in the same stadium that he lost it in. That was very impressive.
That was awesome. Kev, before we get away from college football, I'm going to let you have a quick wrap-up. Quick, 25, 30 seconds. Give us a status right now on how a college football fan should feel coming into December and going into January.
I would say you should feel excited. I mean, this is my favorite time of the year, Joey, with all of the bowl games. I really like to use my vacation time during this time so I can sit home and watch as many of them as I can.
Wow.
Just a couple.
Does your wife know that though?
Oh, she does now.
Yeah.
You're not going to the
Well,
Keys?
hopefully she's not listening tonight. But
You're gonna do a me and reach over and grab the ankle. Like, yo, I can't go. I just sprained my
Exactly.
ankle. I gotta sit.
But one in particular, Joey, that I actually may be attending in person. Well, actually, I'm going to be attending the Orange Bowl, but I want to attend, and I may be attending this game as well up your way. And I would love to sit in on the show live.
Pinstripe.
And that's the University of Miami, Wisconsin, and Yankee Stadium.
Yes.
I think I'll be up that way with the wife around, right after Christmas. And,
Okay.
and
Come on through.
we'll plan to attend that game.
That's the worst time to go outside if you're a New Yorker, especially in that neighborhood, because everybody comes into Midtown and it's like, Miracle on 34th Street type stuff. It's crazy. But as a visitor, it's going to be awesome. It's like the best thing you could ever do for Christmas. And the Pinstripe Bowl, I see it every year. The Pinstripe Bowl is just drawing people in and drawing people in. So you have all these Christmas revelers coming in from around the world, and then you see them because they're wearing, whatever paraphernalia for their team all around the city. So definitely when you come up, we're definitely going to go to sit down and get together. And I can tell you, if that Pinstripe Bowl is going to be, just the environment is going to be fantastic. So,
yeah, I'm really excited to see it. Really excited to see it. And then I just want to close on this. We didn't get a chance to talk conference rankings, but I will leave you with this little tidbit. When I look at the top 25, 8 of the 25 teams are from the SEC, which is basically a third of the 25 top teams in the country are from one conference.
wow. Wow. And when I hear that and I think about that, what I'm thinking is that is a reflection of depth. That's not a reflection necessarily of the highest, most talented teams in the country, but those are the teams that have, 5 good defensive linemen,
Recruiting.
5 good linebackers, 6 good DBs, maybe not a star, you know what I mean? But pretty much their top 25, 30, 35 guys are NFL prospects. Is that a fair way to look at it?
It is.
Right. Whereas
And-
other teams might have a star that makes them good, but they don't have that depth. They're not 30, 40 deep.
Nope. And that's what separates the UCF from the Alabamas, the Georgias. You put UCF in the SEC and they play a SEC schedule, I want to know if you would sit here and say you think they would still be undefeated.
No, they would lose 2
or
or 3
how
games.
many losses?
They would
Or
lose
how
2 or
many
3.
losses do you think they would lose?
They would definitely lose 2 or 3 games, but within a couple of years, they would have that same depth. So, but you're 100% correct on that. But it's still about you played on the field, what was the result, and where do you go next? You know what I mean? Not what's on paper.
That's fair.
But we can keep on talking about this. So definitely next week, let's talk about the bowl games. Start previewing some bowl games and start previewing the playoffs. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate
As
you coming
always.
on.
Thanks for coming out,
Yeah,
man.
as always, thanks a lot for having me on. I appreciate it,
All
guys.
right, let's give it up for Kev.
All right.
Yay!